My name is Wendy Chabay. I'm with Freeze and Nichols, and I have been blessed to be a part of a lot of different projects within the city of Longview. On behalf of the city, I appreciate everybody being here. Also, Johnson & Pace is on our team. They're actually leading our team. They're a local engineering firm, and so we're always grateful to be able to team with them. So we are going to go through about a 30-minute presentation, and then we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A and being able to look at the map and ask any particular questions you have. And so we'll keep this brief tonight, but we do want to give everybody an overview of what this project is all about, why it's such an exciting project for the city of Longview. So let me just start here and just talk real quick about the scope of this project that we are kicking off. It is for Mobberly, and it is from High up to where the railroad is. So right where the split is, right where Komatsu is, right where the split, and then going up north to into downtown, right to the railroad. The whole purpose of this is to make sure that we are creating a road that is safe, that is more pedestrian friendly, that is more walkable. So those are our project goals. This has been a long time coming. If you haven't known that, this is a project that has been in the works for quite some time now. Back in 2014, Kevin over here, one of my colleagues here with Freeze and Nichols, who's going to be talking about some components of this, he actually did a pedestrian access study and looking at how to improve the pedestrian access, particularly with the transit centers in those areas. Again, I was lucky enough to work on the comprehensive plan back in 2015, which was a guiding plan that the city did, quite a large effort. We followed that with a small area plan that specifically focused on South Longview. One of the real key things that came out of the comprehensive plan was that South Longview needs a little love and attention. We've seen a lot of growth going to the north, but we really need to do some things in this area. So that was a real key focus that came out of that, and a significant thing that helped lead us to how do we improve this area and the infrastructure in this area to hopefully encourage new investment going forward. And then the other project that also came out of this small area plan was a new entryway. So it's not there yet, but it is designed. Hopefully by the end of the year, the design will be complete and all the hurdles that we've got to go through to do that. And then next year, you will start to see a new entryway right at where High and Mobberly meet. There's going to be a great new sign that goes there and a little reconfiguration of that roadway. So again, there's exciting projects underway that are coming. And then also, additionally, you passed a bond. You as citizens of Longview passed a bond to put forward this as a project to be able to complete. The good news is that the funding is already there. We've already approved it, so yes, this is going to happen. We are going to make this a better street, and that is going to be moving forward. We've also helped the city apply for a TxDOT grant, and so that will allow for some additional dollars if we're so lucky to get that to be able to do some improvements. So while I mentioned this project has been going on for a while, we are at the beginning stages of tonight of actually designing this roadway. So there's 2 meetings that will get that early input early on, and then we'll have some meetings throughout the construction. The actual construction of the roadway is probably 2 years away. We're going to be in design for the next couple of years and doing all the work that we need to do. So it might be 2 years away, but it is the time to make sure we're giving input now as we move forward with those designs. The purpose of this is to make it comfortable, to make it attractive, to make it economically viable and encourage new development, and then also just to make it safe, looking at landscape opportunities, to make it green, to make it pretty, to look at those things that enhance this corridor from different planting options. So when we look at the project goals, there's a lot of things that have come to mind as we've been hearing about this project, and as we think about it, making it walkable, making it more of a destination, looking at art or safety enhancements, again, hoping that we can ready this for economic development and making it sustainable. So with that, you're going to hear the term complete street a lot. That is really our goal. Kevin is one of the complete street experts. He goes around the country talking about complete streets, so I'm going to let him come talk about what that is.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, so what are complete streets? Why do we do a complete street? What do we think of it? So the beginning of the impetus for complete streets is the fact that we have focused so much on traffic and moving traffic efficiently and effectively that we've forgotten about the other road users, the bicyclists and the pedestrians. And so to go back now and revisit the investments that we have in our roadway infrastructure and see if there's some kind of balance that can be struck with what we have versus what we need. We look at the roadways, and we look at like a 5-lane road that we have here on Mobberly, and we think, well, do we really need 2 lanes each direction with a center turn lane, or can we do something with a little bit less, introduce the bicycle-friendly bike lanes, enhance the sidewalk provisions, and make this more of a balanced corridor that is usable by everybody. Right now, if you're a pedestrian, you really have a hard time walking down these sidewalks and right next to the road, and everything's going fast, and so it's not a very uncomfortable place. So it's no mystery that we don't have a lot of people walking in our communities. And folks walking in and about our communities is kind of the vitality of the place that it is in. And so when we look at, well, why Mobberly, why not other streets? Mobberly has a great potential to have its lanes reallocated to these multiple uses. We're looking at the buffered bike lanes and converting that right-hand lane over to a buffered bike lane. Still leaving a lane of traffic, a turn lane, dedicated turns at the intersection, and how that will operate. So we have to study that and make sure it will be useful for the commerce that's up and down that corridor, make sure that folks can get around safely on this roadway with less of lanes of traffic on it. So taking a look at all these elements and in balance is the purpose of a complete street project. So we look at the benefits of a complete streets, and we have to look at it in a global thought process. We're improving mobility for people, not just for moving cars and trucks and buses and things like that, but people. Our cycling community that wants to ride their bikes to get to places, this is an excellent corridor for that. Even our people that are wanting to age in place, have a community that they can walk around in over time. They raise their kids here, but then they want to have something that's walkable to the park and walkable to the destinations, and as they get older, walkable themselves, just around enjoying the neighborhood. And then that will then encourage development to occur where there's people present and traversing the area. Health issues are a big concern for us, especially here in Texas. We're kind of on the lower end of this chart of this little green circle. This is Texas over here. So we're on the low end of the percent of population that walks and bicycles, and we're on the high end of the percent with diabetes and other health issues that come with inactivity. And so we're trying to encourage this multimodal vitality in our corridors. We have a public investment in this right away. Let's make it more usable for more of the population that lives right in that corridor. And then safety, we've got some stretches of Mobberly that doesn't have a controlled crossing for half a mile or so. And so you're kind of running across the street in 5 lanes of traffic. Be easier to get across the street in 1 lane each direction with a turn lane. So getting those elements in there and even adding the protected crossings is an important part of the overall mobility and accessibility for everything in the corridor. In doing so, we're going to strengthen the local economy up and down that corridor. You'll see that it's been proven that the public investment, and they've got some case studies over here, but the public investment in that right-of-way, you know, the enhancing of the sidewalks and making it more walkable and even making the driveways a little easier to get into that site, really helped to spur additional development up and down the corridor because they see that somebody's taking care of what's going on here, and it encourages them to invest in their properties. Include, you know, dress up their storefronts and make it a little cleaner atmosphere for folks to come and visit their shops. Choices and equity is becoming a big issue for us all over the country, and now we're paying more and more attention to the fact that we have really built our way into this environment that almost forces people to have a car to get around safely and everywhere they want to go. And so we're trying to, again, bring that balance back into these corridors where you can walk down to the corner store. You can walk your kids to the school. You can walk to the park. You can get around within your community and maybe even ride a bike to work or ride a bike to the store in a safe manner. And so that is, again, providing that equity of choices out there. You may not want to ride your bike when it's raining, that's fine. But providing on an opportunistic basis is what the key is. And then, you know, enhancing the atmosphere of the street with streetscaping and trees and pedestrian level lighting and all those things that go along with making it an attractive place to be. All right, so we use these goals and objectives of what we're trying to do as our measuring stick then for everything we're about to do on this project. We want it to be balanced. We want it to provide multimodal opportunities. We want to enhance the atmosphere of moving around in the street corridor. And so we have to use those then as our kind of measuring stick for these pre-designed alternatives. So one of the first things we wanted to do was go in and define that condition where we would bring it down to 3 lanes, you know, center turn lane, dedicated left turn lane at the intersections, 1 moving traffic in each direction, and make sure that works for the traffic that's out there and the traffic that might be out there in the future. So we ran our traffic models, and you don't have to know everything about what's going on here. Just understand that green means it's operating quite well, and this is the peak PM condition and AM condition. So in the peak hours of the day, right now in this existing 5-lane conditions, we have very good operations. We've got pretty much free flow and it's uncongested. When we go down to the 3-lane configuration, it's still operating pretty well. We've got very good operations north and southbound on Mobberly. There's a few side streets that have a right turn need that is more than what we provided, so we're going to look at those in design. But in general, 3-lane configuration is all pretty much green operations. It's very good operations. We then tested, well, what if we had 20% more traffic? What if we grew 1% a year for 20 years? Would we still be operating okay? And we started to notice some of the side streets that are not signalized now might start having some challenges getting out into the traffic flow. So it's an indication of maybe in the future we might want to have a traffic signal at some of the current side street stop areas, such as at Melton and Timpson streets. So we are looking ahead. We want to make sure that we don't, you know, cut off our nose to spite our face. We don't develop something we can't live with for the future. But we are making that determination now before we even start looking at the alternatives to proceed with. So that was an important stage to go through and make sure we prove the concept that we're going to move with forward. All right, so here's kind of an image of what that condition might look like. We're going to leave the curb lines basically where they are. We would take that right outside lane and stripe off a bike lane, and then we'd have a buffer space between the travel lane and the bike lane. Typically, those would be 5 feet. If we come into a situation where those dimensions need to change a bit, we have that flexibility. And then we would enhance that, what we call the pedestrian zone, the area outside of the curb, with an improved sidewalk, 4 to 5 feet wide, plus about a 5-foot parkway buffer with landscaping and lighting and things like that may go in that space right there. So that would be the general concept for what the street might look like. Now, we're going to have to take this block by block all the way down this corridor, this 2-mile-long corridor, because every block is going to have its own unique conditions, driveways, bus stops, things like that. So when we come into a bus stop, we're going to have the bus able to go into that buffered bike lane and use it to serve its stop, and then come out of that buffered bike lane and get back in the travel lane. That's one of the typical things that we'll have to deal with up this corridor. We may have some driveways that need to have their own pullover right turn lane. We may have some street intersections that want to have a dedicated right turn lane just for capacity and to allow those cars to slow down as through traffic passes by. So the use of that buffered bike lane area will change block by block all the way down the corridor, but that is the generalized treatment that we're going to be looking at. And then as the bike lane passes through intersections, there will be all sorts of customized treatments for striping and signage and things like that as we go through. And there's this National Association of City Transportation Officials Urban Bikeway Design Guide that has all sorts of examples of things we can do and how we can treat the bikeway through the intersection, even to the extent of maybe merging them together at the intersection where maybe the bike lane becomes part of the sidewalk element and moves back into the bike lane, just for the right turning elements and things to go around. So a lot of ways we'll be looking at the elements to make sure they work, and that's the most important thing. And we're going to try to do some testing out in the field, to show and tell some of the things we might think about doing, but that's later on in early next year. So potential parking regulation, we've got a lot of places that right now they're using actually this public right-of-way to park in and do their upfront business. And we've been having discussions with individual property owners about generally what we're trying to do. And most of them are very favorable to the concept we're trying to go after. But we'll have a chance to talk with you further if you have specific questions about a particular site. And the individual driveways, intersection capacity is a major concern for me. I'm a traffic engineer, so I want to make sure that that roadway is going to work. And then considerations for Laterno and any special events that might be going on, maybe having a dedicated right turn lane at Laterno and then picking up things past there with the buffered bike lanes down the street. Transitions up at High Street and how that whole thing will work. So a lot of the details yet to work out, and we'll be sharing those with you as we get them further down design. And there's just some more information about the fact that we're actively going out and talking with folks about what the thing might look like. Yeah, we're actually bringing some kind of sample concepts out to them, and so they can understand what's going on. Go back to share one thing. Bob Watson is the project engineer, so if you have any questions, we will defer them to Bob to address them first, and if he needs our assistance, we'll be glad to lend a hand. But yeah, if you think your property is specifically impacted, come see Bob.
Thanks, Kevin. So he talked about a few of the givens that are a part of this project. Taking those outside lanes, as he showed, traffic is not going to warrant that, even with additional growth. So taking that outside lanes and creating a more pedestrian bike environment. We recognize that there may be concerns for driveways and things like that, and that is Bob Watson with the city has been fantastic about already coming out and talking to many businesses. And so if you do have particular concerns about anything, he is happy to come and do one-on-one conversations with you. So Kevin talked about some of the things that are givens. We are going to be doing this project. It is moving forward. Here's the things that aren't given that we really need your input. So when we look at this corridor, starting on the left in front of Laterno in the green area, and then all the way to the rail station and the blue, we start to realize this corridor takes a little bit of different environment. There's an area that's a little bit green out in front of Laterno area, and then it gets a little bit more industrial as you get into downtown. So while we don't have this all figured out, it is one of the things that we're going to be thinking about, because it might not be that every single part of this roadway is identical, or maybe some of the landscape treatments or so on are identical. It's a 2-mile roadway. It's a long road. So there's a lot to do there. But it may be treated differently. So that's one of the things that we can get your feedback on. And just going through different sites, I won't go through all this. You all know the corridor pretty well, but that's definitely something that the design team is doing, is looking at each of these sites and how it's affected, and how can we take some of those big businesses and opportunities and kind of lay this in along the street. So we're just kind of moving down and looking at an area that is more residential. You got a lot of schools, you have a lot of churches, and then even in the historic area, there's some real challenges because there's some buildings. So there, in some places, you got a lot of room along Mobberly. You got big setbacks, and some places they're very, very short. Houses and businesses come right up to the road. So there's different conditions along this roadway. And then again, moving on to into closer to the downtown area. So we will be considering all that as we go into this. So what's really important to us is what's important to you. We want to hear from each and every one of you that's sitting in this room, anybody who's watching online. We want to be able to get your input. We've started looking at, okay, what could possibly be some things that, if money allows, that we could fold into this project. Now, this is a list of all kinds of different ideas of things that we can look at. We won't have money to do all of these things. And so what's important for us to hear is, what is your priority? What's the most important thing if we have some dollars really to put into landscaping or streetscape furniture or lighting or certain components? What's most important to you? So you may have an idea that's not on this list, and that's great. That's what we want to hear. So I think if any of you have a smartphone and you pull it out and you zoom in on this, it should work. And if it doesn't, we will be happy to help you at the end. There is a QR code. It will pull up a survey. And that survey is very, very beneficial to us. Even if you're here tonight and you're able to talk to us firsthand, we would love for you to fill out that survey. And again, we're pushing this. It's online. You can go to the City of Longview's website and go to Complete Street, and it will take you to this link. It's very short, but it gives you some input. And even on the end part of the survey, there is a map. So if you want to pull and drop a pin on a map and say, okay, this is my business, it's really important, this is why, this is a driveway I really have to keep, whatever it is, there's a way that you can do that on the map. So should be a fun little tool to use, and it's certainly super beneficial for us. So we encourage you to push this out. We have got several local businesses that have been super gracious to be able to give us gift cards. We have several gift cards from local businesses, $50 each. So if you complete this survey, then you will get in the drawing for that. Pfluger's, Ollie's, Wally G, and Bodacious Barbecue have all been gracious to be able to give us gift cards to give you if you're so chosen in that survey. So I encourage everybody to take it, push it, let your neighborhood know, let your businesses know to be able to do that. That's certainly a huge help for us. So with that, I want to thank everybody for being here.